Hey everybody, back again. Zak Nordyke here, founder of the Evergreen Mentorship program. We've been away for a while, but this is another installment of Zero to a Million. We talk about how entrepreneurs can take a business from $0 in annual revenue to their first million, which is a major milestone. And today we're going to talk about a topic, hyper sales growth. This is not an original concept from me. But Jack Daly, he's an incredible author that really talks about sales management, sales growth, revenue growth, a lot of great stuff. So this is information he shared in the book with the same title, Hyper Sales Growth. I am a big fan. I had the real distinct privilege to hear him speak to a group probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. Incredible value that I got from that. I want to take the time to share that with you because I think entrepreneurs really need to think through their sales process and just maybe think about some of the framework he shares. Okay, so let's get into it. This entrepreneur tip is from a different entrepreneur, raise prices. I would just say the reason I'm bringing this up is often we are really self-conscious, whether it's subliminal or overt, about raising our prices. It really challenges us to our core when we think about giving somebody a product for a higher price, elevating the prices of our service. I think our immediate reaction often is, the market won't pay that. I just raised prices on my customers last year. They're going to all leave. I'm going to be left alone. This is a real push to you about how much are you worth. That's often the reason we won't raise prices is because we have something inside of us that's saying we think that this is how much we're valuing our time, we're valuing our energy, we're valuing our products that we're helping put together at a rate that is not real. It's more in our mind. So raise prices, challenge yourself to raise your own standards, to expect more and to charge more. I know I often fall into that loop of thinking where raising prices feels scary. When you raise prices, okay, obviously you're generating more revenue for your business. You're often generating more profits for your business. You can pay the folks that are working alongside you higher commissions, higher general salaries. Everything gets better. You can deliver a better product or service, but it is so scary. But raise prices, raise your standards bar, expect more, and you'll likely get more. Okay, let's jump into some stuff from hyper sales growth now that we've got that out of the way. Jack Daly is a huge proponent of practice, okay? He thinks about it like this. Most sports teams, most youth athletics clubs, for that matter, do a better job than businesses at having playbooks and practicing. And what he means by this is when a salesperson goes and makes a sale, whether you're the salesperson for your organization or you have somebody that works with you to do that, or you have a whole team of people that work for your organization to get out there and sell, often there is no practice of the sale. We just allow folks that are naturally inclined towards figuring out how to get the market interested in purchasing whatever service or product we have. They're just naturally inclined and they excel. What he is a big proponent of is we would never expect that with an athletics team. We would be creating plays more than likely. We would be practicing multiple times a week. Then we would get into a game or competition, and we would expect the performance during that game or competition to be a byproduct of the practice. Yet with business, especially the sales part of most businesses, it's all game. We only expect the salesperson to be getting in repetitions in practice when they're working with an actual client, customer, prospect, whatever label we want to put on them. That's the only practice they're getting. And I guess I never really thought about it like this. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And Jack really is a huge advocate of having The sales folks practice all the time. You have a salesperson. Well, let's say you have 3 folks in your company. We'll just pretend that you do. Your person in charge of selling, and maybe that's you. I know I do a lot of selling for our company. You've got a person who's selling. You've got a person who's the practice prospect, right? Let's say you have an administrative assistant. Maybe they could be that person. And then your marketing person is the observer. Salesperson, prospect, observer. 3 people involved in practice. The salesperson is going to work on their sales techniques and tactics, what they're going to say and how they're going to handle the sales situation by practicing with the prospect. And that prospect, again, can be anybody in your company. Let's just say you have an administrative assistant. That administrative assistant is going to pretend to be a prospective customer. You are going to be the salesperson, and maybe the person that works on marketing in your organization is just going to be an observer. They're taking notes, however they're taking notes. And for 20 minutes, you are working on selling that prospective client or customer. And for 20 minutes, the observer is observing and taking notes on how you're performing, where you can improve, where you're doing well. And that person who's the prospective customer isn't trying to make things insanely hard. Like, they are not going to come up with, they're not going to, be they're going to have some willingness to purchase and commit to your service, but they're not also going to make it so easy, like, yes to everything, absolutely, let's take the next step. They're not going to lead you, but they're also not going to make it impossible. So for 20 minutes, you're going to work on your opening line, your nurturing middle, your closing, whatever you do in your sales technique that helps walk that person to a deal. You're going to practice, and you're going to practice in an environment where you get redos, because when you're with clients or customers, you don't get redos. Okay. So it's a really cool thing. And I've actually been working with someone who assists me. We've had AI kind of be our note taker or our observer. But what's been fascinating is I have been much more confident when I make calls or when I'm in meetings with our potential partners. My fluidity, my confidence in going to the next part of what we need to share with our partners who, could help us generate more business. I'm just much more fluid, much more confident, much more, sharp and crisp. And it's because I'm practicing. 3 days last week, we got in this practice, and I'm going to really push that I do this all 5 days a week for 20 minutes a day. I'm practicing sales technique. It's something that if you have more salespeople in your organization, splitting them into multiple groups of 3 ideally. I've done it without the observer. We're in an era of AI. Maybe you can have a note taker like Fathom, or I know there's a bunch of other ones, Fireflies, Otters, etc. Listen in, and you need to watch back how you perform, just like sports teams, watching game film and breaking down how you can improve through seeing what you're doing or reading through how you're approaching or listening back on audio to how you're doing it. You got to practice. Selling is super difficult, okay? Or I should say, and this is the Jack Daly, helping the buyer to want to buy, to facilitate somebody who is really interested in what you have to offer, getting them to the buy. You got to practice if you want to become extremely proficient at this. It's a craft. So practice. Again, it only makes sense. Sports teams practice. They have playbooks. They have rehearsed strategies for how they're going to perform in a competitive environment. And in sales, there's so little focus on practice that I'm aware of, but maybe it just opened my eyes to something that many were already familiar with. But I want to share that with you. Practice. The CEO. Maybe you're wearing multiple hats in your organization, and I'm just going to share something to think about, right? It's more of a thought experiment than anything. When you're running your company, your main role is to get the right people in the right seats. It's to orchestrate all that's going on in your business. Usually that involves putting out many fires We would love to always be working on our business than in it. But at a when you're at a smaller stage and you're trying to build that first million in revenue, oftentimes your whole job is to make sure things don't fall apart. If we're being honest, that is a 0 to that first million in revenue CEO's main job, to keep the company humming along as issues come up, to put those out. Often our second thought is to make sure that we have the right people on the team and they understand their role. That is a major commitment of time, okay? And then as time progresses, the CEO has to be able to say, what are the priorities? List those out, okay? Do those priorities for the team members make sense for what we're trying to achieve this quarter, this year? Will they even make sense for what we're striving for in the next 3 to 5 years, right? Your vision and getting the right people to figure out the right priorities to get to that mountaintop that you've created as the leader of your organization, that's a full-time job, okay? To put out the fires that ultimately arise. We're kidding ourselves if we think leading really any business, but certainly one in a high growth stage where you're going from business idea to the first million in revenue, we have absolutely got to devote ourselves to keeping the business going, not running out of cash, finding the right people, getting the right people to help figure out the proper priorities to get us to our quarterly objectives and our annual objectives, to orchestrate all this well and have things running as smooth as you possibly can, which is always, it's a winding road. That's a full-time job. Jack Daly really puts out, can you be the CEO as well as the full-time sales manager concurrently? His argument is you can't. You're going to be a part-time CEO and a part-time sales manager. So what happens is you're not growing your revenue as fast as you can by trying to get your business to perform and overseeing the whole operation, as well as concentrating on a part of the operation as critical as sales, right? So as CEO, I think as we think through our replacement, right, we wear many hats. And as the business grows and really the sales, we try to replace ourselves and bring in a person that can put in their full energy to this. Again, I guess I'm encouraging you to think through, when you're the CEO, it's a full-time role. If you want your business to grow a lot, you've got to devote yourself to right people, right seats, getting them to do the right things and measure it the right way. And that's a lot of work, okay? Jack's point is, as soon as you can, and we're going to talk about a strategy that I think is really smart, but it's a very tough thing to do in practice to get this to happen. You need to, as soon as you can, get a sales manager that's going to be working on getting you sales people, right? And they need a playbook, obviously, that you would design. You have to have somebody that's fully devoted to making sure your sales team is selling. That's their whole role, finding the right people, just like you're trying to get all the people in your organization in the right seats doing the right things. They need to be getting the right people selling the right way to the right prospects. And that needs to be their whole gig, okay? So, CEOs, he encourages, be a CEO, make that your full-time gig. Find a sales manager as soon as you can. Sales manager versus salesperson. Okay, there's again a distinction. CEO and sales manager aren't the same thing. They're two full-time commitments if you want a high-growth business, right? But I know that this is about 0 to 1 million, so I'm realistic. Oftentimes, you got to wear both hats, especially early on when you're just trying to get the plane off the runway, okay? But sales manager and salesperson is two different roles. This is a Jack Daly thought process. Your sales manager is about developing people, developing strategy, helping to lead the practice, helping hold accountable. That is often a very slow and methodical process to manage folks, to find folks, to cultivate talent, to create the right incentives, to have the right teachings and structures to get the most out of folks. A salesperson, they probably are high action, high activity, making calls, setting up meetings, doing deals, all the things that are doing, focusing on activities that create performance and production. Managing is often a slow, methodical, long range, long term thinking. Sales is often a hustle, a certain amount of concentrated in a certain amount of concentrated, metrics driven ways every day, right? Not the same person. Your sales manager has to be a sales manager, or that's one thing Jack Daly really strongly advocates in his book. Managers and salespeople, probably your best seller and your best sales manager aren't the same thing. You shouldn't have a sales manager who's selling. He thinks that the sales manager role, just like we talked about CEO and sales manager, that should be a full-time gig. They shouldn't have their own book of business. They shouldn't try to be selling after hours. They should also be a specialized person that's their passion in life. That's their thing. That's where you are confident. You can give them the reins to train salespeople, to get the best out of salespeople, to really set the marks, the targets, to cultivate methodologies that help your sellers sell more. Okay, that's a gig. Don't try to make a salesperson a sales manager. Try to have the CEO and sales manager roles separated. Sales manager is a full-time thing. They shouldn't be selling. Don't mistake a salesperson from a sales manager. They're two different things. Okay, hopefully that is clear. Commission only. Just like raising prices, this has to bring a little fear into the heart of some entrepreneurs or business operators. We often, I can speak from personal experience, it's daunting to say to somebody, there is no pay for this job. You have to go out there, hustle, make it happen, and as a or based on the production you create, you'll get a cut of it. That's a very entrepreneurial way of thinking. Jack Daly, is again strongly in favor of getting folks commission only. He talks about sleeping better at night when you know that the folks on your sales team, including your sales manager, are only eating what they kill. Pay them as much as they can get paid based on the performance that they are giving to your organization. Here's how he thinks through this, and I want to share this because I found this to be tremendously valuable. If you have a sales manager or somebody that's selling for you, and you present them with like a normal compensation, like a salary only, right? Let's say you give them three different options. A, we will give you $70,000. Here's our expectations, but the $70,000 is guaranteed. That's A. Set salary, set expectations. B, you give them set expectations again, and all, like in the ABC scenario, we'll have set expectations. B, you give a set salary, but half of your salary comes from just pay that is guaranteed. The other half comes from commission, right? Let's say it's $35,000 guaranteed, unlimited commissions. You can get paid in a great year in your business, $150K. We're going over double from A to B. One is guaranteed, $70K, just do these sets of tasks, and that's it. B, you got a base salary and commission. C, commission only. C, you tell them, look, this job is commission only, but people who are absolutely crushing it with us, they can earn up to $220,000 in commission. And we've had, whatever amount of folks do that last year. Okay. Anybody who is truly confident in themselves will pick C. They believe in themselves. They're good with commission only. It's a scary thing. I know it. I've had to think through proposing this to folks who have worked with us, that they're commission only. It doesn't feel good often. You feel very intimidated, not intimidated, but you feel very anxious because we think everybody loves guarantees. We're entrepreneurs. We're the risk takers. There's no one that feels like this. But you got to have a salesperson that's confident. And you know what? It speaks to, do you have sales systems that you're going to be turning over to them that can get that type of traction and result? Then you can be confident that a commission-only structure will yield well for your organization and for them getting paid. The next thing Jack talks about is his money bag. Okay. And I thought, well, what the heck is a money bag? He is so good, or his teachings really make you think about follow-up. His money bag is about when you're meeting with somebody, okay? And he really tries to concentrate on calling on the right people versus volume. Who are the folks that are the biggest centers of influence in your industry? How can you create a deep relationship with them? And then when you get a hold of them, how can you instantly follow up? It's a personalized email. It's a personalized physical card that he mails. It's doing things very promptly. It's remembering their birthday and sending just a small token of appreciation during those critical dates. He is so concentrated that when he meets with you, he's not going to have 12,000 things that are going on. He's going to make sure he sends you a personal email, gets you a personal card, invites you to do something fun when he's around you, and he's going to do that immediately after he's done meeting with you. So whether you're your salesperson, and I think all of us who are operating a business are a salesperson, in some degree or another, but he dips into that money bag, and it's really about spontaneous follow-up after meetings. I thought this was a very important lesson. Spontaneous follow-up, a great personalized email thanking that person for their time, sending them a card with an image of you in some kind of personal way. If you know that the person loves tennis, send them one of you playing tennis if you have something like this. He's very thoughtful about connecting on the human level and in a very personal, high-touch way with the person he's working on building a relationship with. Thought that was huge. Email, card, remembering things like birthdays or other critical dates to keep that person really, or to help you stay top of mind for the person that you're working with as a center of influence. So that's his money bag. It's basically a bag because it has physical cards in. And these are like thank you cards that he's pulling from and letting folks know, look, I care. I've invested time to research, what you're doing, and I'm thoughtful to how we can build a relationship that lasts, and I can deliver a lot of value for you. So folks, hyper sales growth, if you want to make $1 million company, you really got to think about your sales systems, sales people. You got to really change your mind about pricing and value, and making things where you're putting full-time folks, commission-only folks in positions to win if you really want to ring the sales register. So Jack Daly's Hyper Sales Growth, I listen to it all the time on Audible. It's a great audio book. I'm not as keen on reading because I can get a ton done and listen to the Audible version. Highly recommended. I would totally go out and grab it. Again, this has been another installment of 0 to $1 Million. Hopefully you find this helpful. Go out there and make some sales. Build your center of influence. Talk to you soon.